That's what I really found is like getting into Body Thrive, running my own group too. So much of it just starts to happen on a level of conversation and connection. You're talking about different kinds of habits. You're talking about the possibility of change. You're talking about the possibility of you living a life that you actually want to be living. And that subtle frequency compounds over time until people start seeing these remarkable results.
You are the well-being wisdom warrior, the heartfelt healer,
the luminary leader,
the health harbinger,
the shaman, the witch, the guru,
the guide of humanity to an embodied, enlightened future.
Welcome to the Well Pro Show, the podcast for wellness pros,
where your wellness lifestyle is your core leadership strategy.
Experience the camaraderie of collaborative colleagues,
where your job as a wellness pro is to guide the transformation.
You are the resistance, the future, the way forward.
You are the community counselor, the change maker.
The Well Pro Show, brought to you by futurist thought leader Cate Stillman and the team at Wellness Pro Academy. Made for you, by us.
Hey, it's Cate Stillman with the Well Pro Show, and I'm here with Patrick Heffernan and Romy Toussaint. Welcome back, you guys. You've done a few podcasts with me over the years.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about what we want to talk about, and I think part of it is transition and evolution and what has happened over time with courses and clubs that we lead as wellness professionals, and how much habit evolution happens in community versus, just trying to do it on our own. So I'd love to start, Romy. I know you just had to get together with people that were in your program that you created when you were in yoga health coaching, which later evolved into Wellness Pro Academy. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you led with your members and what recent event of the get together and what that was like?
Sure. So, I started my club back in 2020, and it was a super amazing experience. I think my very first group, I think there were over 20 people, and it was really life-changing. And that group evolved, and I would say 40% of them repeated the second year after the first year. So it was a really tight-knit group. And I think it was helped by, COVID and the fact that every one of us was on Zoom. But that I've just really completed my third year back, which ended this September 2023. So we just really ended. In this past weekend, I had a reunion, and it was a way of just bringing everybody together. It was called Deep Rest Retreat Day. And I was just blown away first by at one point I had my camera going and I was just listening to the noise, and it was like all these birds coming together, this flock, and they were just like nonstop connecting and talking and hugging and this and that. And it was just so personal and intimate that I just recorded it. I was just smiling and just feeling the sense of wow around this community. I was just in awe of the deep friendship and support and connection, the recognition of the progress that they have all made. And it was just really beautiful. And we had a fabulous day of reconnecting with each other, and just the appreciation and the recognition of how far everyone went. The treasure, how much they treasured the friendships and the continuation of that. I was just blown away by the community that is no longer, meeting, but still connected in so many ways by the habits and by the experience that they shared.
Yeah, it really speaks to what we call community of belonging and becoming, where it's like when you belong to a group that's really at the wavelength that you notice fosters your growth, that actually propels you forward, that it's a very different energetic vibration than I think a lot of us are used to, who maybe haven't experienced that much, especially when it comes to things that are really hard, which is how do we evolve our habits that we want to have that are actually countercultural. They're actually kind of going against what maybe most of the people in our lives, maybe other family members, maybe at work, maybe our friend group, kind of going against the habits that we're really saturated in. What were some of the, with having that longitudinal perspective, I guess I have two questions around this. Like one is like, how did it feel to you to like be able to step back and see what you had created and the kind of impact you'd created in all these lives?
I felt like a proud mama. I felt incredibly privileged too, to have had the tools to help people do that work, because I certainly, especially in my first year, I was like by the book, it's like, open this up. What does Cate say to do right here, right now? I'm doing that, and it just really made it easy for me to step in and follow a path that made it really easy, because that's what I was looking for when I hopped on the bandwagon of of YHC. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I wanted to follow something that was successful and that worked. And so the ease that was there to help me do that was great. But I just really felt like a privileged person who was able to just put something out there and have people follow it, use it, and see the results for themselves. And work at it in their own way and see the results for themselves years later. I think
Amazing.
That's what's really apparent to me on that day.
And what are the results? That was my second question, is like, what are the results that your members notice that like what's really changed from you, like leading your club, like leading the habits?
So I had the oldest person in the club when I started was 79. So she's now 82. And she is like a 20-year-old, just her mindset. And she's the one who keeps coming back. And, and I've had people as young as like 40 somethings as well. So, people with children who are, so there's just a variety of people. And the commonalities was they all have more energy. They're all more self-aware. They've really developed the ability to have self-awareness so that they can really use these tools to have self-care. And every single one of them will be like, oh, I'm really like doing a B on this and a B- on this. And I was like, yay. Like that was so key, that they could just be human about life, but yet really recognize, I don't want to feel that way. I don't like how I feel when I don't get up and do this. And I don't like this. So just the basics that they've had. So that's one big thing. And then there is a part of the group that has really evolved their habits. For example, one of the women invited me a couple of weeks ago to go to a Wim Hof workshop that she put on at her tennis club, where we, did an hour or more of breathing. And then we went into 32-degree water and it was 32 degrees outside. It was the coldest plunge I have ever taken. But she invited me in, so many of them are taking these habits way beyond what we did in the club and are just evolving in so many ways. One of the most significant stories that I have is one of the women during part of this, I bring in conscious leadership. That's my take on it. And we did a whole lot on that. And at one point we did a vision board for what she wanted to create as far as her family. And she created this very specific, she was single, she'd been married before and had been in terrible relationships. And she wanted to choose ease and she wanted to create this kind of life that she wanted to have. So I remember we were doing her vision board and she wanted a picture with a family at a dining room table, a family. And she's like, no, we're all helping each other. And we finally found this. And she had this just beautiful vision board. And this, about 3 months ago, she called and sent a note saying, it all came true. Like she's met a man who has 2 children. They're grown. She has a family. They bought a house together. They have like this beautiful dining room. And it's just, I was crying a little bit to see how all of that comes true. So this idea of really seeing who we want to become and putting the habits in place to make that happen. And she spoke. She was just like, this would not have happened if I did not take care of myself and really figured out my energy and who I want to be, and was very, very certain about how I wanted to go on my path. And so it was just really beautiful. I didn't have to say anything. They just all sat and talked about their successes. So I just felt like, wow, this was such a great thing.
Yeah.
But I want to do more of that. some more in some way.
Yeah. I mean, it is that like the structure precedes the evolution. There's so much of like, if you didn't set that all up, then those people don't necessarily have that experience or those results. And I think some part of us often thinks, well, they would have found someone else. But I'm not sure that that's true. And like, the more I think, Patrick, you and I were just mentioning marketing. It's like, the more we learn about marketing, the more we realize that like actually a lot of messages just miss people. And if we don't help them get into the club or the program, then they actually keep going on the trajectory that they're currently on. What would you like to add or talk about, Patrick?
I guess to that end, it's like I forget what I know compared to what others know. And so, and that might even be as simple as like being tuned into a conversation or willing to entertain a certain topic. Because that's what I really found is like getting into Body Thrive, running my own group too. So much of it just starts to happen on the level of conversation and connection. You're talking about different kinds of habits. You're talking about the possibility of change. You're talking about the possibility of you living a life that you actually want to be living. And that subtle frequency compounds over time until people start seeing these remarkable results like Romy was just talking about. And so I'm like in the marketing phase, I'm constantly trying to remind myself, like, I might be that little blip, that little soundbite in this person's ear who doesn't know that they don't have to go forward, suffering with their anxiety, right? Or crippled by their imposter syndrome, or just constantly feeling like, yeah, they don't have their chance to get up there and shine. I think a big part of what we do is like help people change the narrative that they're currently in, which is culture's narrative too. But that's the evolutionary friction. I think it's fun.
Yeah, and it really speaks to, in part, the ground rules. Where there is this life positive, like in our ground rules of being all in and how to show up in a group that's evolutionary and growth oriented is often really different than, when we get together when everyone's just kind of complaining about things or that, right? Like the bitch and moan or the stitch and bitch or what, however you want to call it, or even like just joking around about stuff that goes towards, I call it lowest common denominator, where like the conversation's going down. Whereas when people are invested in a growth group and there's ground rules and there's structures for people to evolve, then they do evolve. They naturally evolve. And how much the structure precedes the evolution for us has just been an absolute core part of our teaching at Yoga Health Coaching and then Wellness Pro Academy. I think it's fascinating too. Like one of our big lessons learned is, in that transition and then looking back was like the things that happened when we didn't have all the wellness pros in Body Thrive. Like we didn't have them working on their habits, and instead they were really more focused on building their programs and not just teaching our program, but like building their own programs and wrapped up in like what are their core competencies and really thinking hard about that and then doing the marketing enrollment for their club. It's like in retrospect, we realized that we missed one of the real core bonding aspects that we had in Yoga Health Coaching, which was like we're all living the circadian rhythm habits. And because of that shared context and because of those shared core competencies in our clubs or in our programs, it enabled this depth of connection that Romy was just describing. And I think often, even when we get together with health conscious friends, if we aren't all like kind of leaning into the same habits, there's less of that base of connection to go deeper on, right? And there's more of a like kind of scattershot approach to what, to what's currently working in our lives, which doesn't, again, the structure's not really there for more traction and evolution.
I really like that. It's a great reminder, Cate, of, you keep saying structure precedes, evolution. And that really is a great reminder. I'm reminded sometimes when I'm teaching a yoga class or at the end of the class, somebody comes up and they're like, oh my gosh, this was really great. I was able to do this. And my humble self always wants to say, well, it's the yoga. Like, no, it wasn't me. It was the yoga. And it is the yoga and it's me. Like, I'm thinking about that. It's, everyone who comes to our clubs are attracted to us for something. They're not necessarily going to get from another person. And I've taken a zillion yoga classes or studied with teachers that haven't affected me as much as, others. So I think it is a combination of the tools and how each of us as an individual presents it and brings our own special quality, our own special take or knowledge, or way of sharing, I think is really special. So I was just reminded of that structure plus that thing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot, I think, in there. It's like, yeah, structure precedes evolution. And then it's like having the structure so that the living wisdom can really be present, right? And go somewhere. I think often when we're just in casual situations that are oriented towards that lowest common denominator, like same person might show up, but because the structure's not there for the transmission of the wisdom, the living wisdom, it doesn't happen. Right. Which is why in a yoga class it does happen, is because there's a setting, there's a structure, there's an invitation for the living wisdom. And it reminds me of these words in Sanskrit, like in Ayurveda, there's a differentiation between Ayurveda and Ayurvidya. And so Ayurveda is Ayu is life, right? And then Veda is wisdom. Same thing with Ayurvidya, but there's a difference in Veda and Vidya. And they sound alike, right? So it's like there's a lot of connection there, but the difference is like one is the codified wisdom and the other is the living in the moment wisdom that's carried by the Shakti. It's carried by the person's life force energy. And I think that's where, especially for wellness pros that we've worked with over the last decade, there's often, I think what you just said, Romy and Patrick both, of like, a sense of belittling one's actual contribution instead of realizing that that's actually the essential element. Like without a leader, a club doesn't happen. Without a leader, the transmission, the habit transference doesn't actually happen. And it doesn't happen for the leader either. Like the leader needs the members as much as the members need the leader.
That's what I was thinking when Romy was sharing about like it's not me, it's yoga, because it's definitely a both and, because if you can't hold that container in that space, and someone's got to reinforce it because the cultural pull is just too dramatic to revert back to what the conditioning would otherwise be. And I had to be in spaces where people would be willing to call me out and us out on like, oh, hey, back to this guideline. Oh, hey, back to, and it's challenging, but if you do it right over time, like what I've found is that it actually ends up making the job way easier. And that if you do a good enough job at enforcing it in the beginning, the members will start to just enforce it on their own. That's what was so great about the rolling enrollment. Is like you've got these people just like modeling the way, living the way. So when you were talking about passing the living wisdom down, Cate, I was thinking how it's so nice that it's like that doesn't just have to be channeled through the leader, but actually the best clubs, it's like everyone's embodying that wisdom. Sometimes the members maybe even more than the leader, right? It's just it's rhythmic.
Especially over time, the members are really, I believe, carrying it, and the mentors, right? If there's enough people in it where you have mentors and members, it's like the leader's job really then is building the structure for the community to evolve. Which for us, I mean, it was really an interesting aha when we realized that in the shift to, part of the reason we shifted from Yoga Health Coaching to Wellness Pro Academy is we grew in as a community more into primal habits, which subseeded yoga, like came before yoga. And so it was like, we're off brand. This is off brand. We're getting wellness pros that are like, I'm not a yoga teacher, but I really like what you guys are doing. So like in so many ways, things were kind of off, but we did throw the baby out with the bathwater in the sense of we were like, okay, we're not going to teach people how to be yoga health coaches anymore. We're just going to offer really the business model. And now going into the next phase, we're actually creating, I believe we're up to 6 certifications. So it's, it's like the Body Thrive Habits, which is essentially yoga health coaching, intermittent fasting coaching for your body type, simple detox coaching, primal habits coaching, strategic life coaching, which is based on Master View, microbiome diet coaching, right? Where we really saw like, oh my gosh, people actually need, our wellness pros and their communities need the structure. And I didn't realize, I think just kind of to what Romy, you spoke about before, sometimes you don't really realize what you're bringing to the table. I didn't realize that people needed my curriculums. I kind of thought like, this is easy for me. It must be easy for everybody. This is the fun creative work for me. It must be the fun creative work for everybody. And what we got back was like, no, we actually want the next curriculum. Like, I want to take my club now and lead them through some primal habits, or I want to take my club now and lead them through the fast mimicking diet, or help them understand fasting for their body type, or, you know, and it was like, oh, but if I didn't have the club around me, I wouldn't know that that's what they needed or wanted next.
Which is so sweet too, because like as you're listing off the certifications, I'm listening and I'm like, fuck, I apply for like most of those. Like I got all those skills when I was in that community. Yeah. And it's that thing of like, I keep forgetting what I know. And since I did kind of like dive in hard to, you know, our club, I love you guys so much. I forget that everyone's not having these conversations. And so sometimes it really is that little badge that I need. It's like, oh, you're dealing with this. Here's how I help people with that. And then also it's like, for me, there was a bit of a sequence or like a krama with the, you know, I came into Body Thrive. It started with 10 habits. And then I started doing the wild habits. And then I started doing primal. Then it got into microbiome. So it's like, there kind of is that option to design the experience and the journey for your people, your club. Just look back and see like the way that you did it. What was the order, and take them through those steps. It's very sweet. It's very sweet as a leader too, because it provides so much opportunity for reflection. And it's, it's very sweet.
And continued growth for yourself as well as for members.
Yeah. I mean, and the other piece that we're really finding is like, it doesn't, what is more important is shared context than who the message is coming from. So the other thing that we've really found over time, and I learned this in 2011, and I guess I didn't get it because I had to learn it again in 2023, which is that like people actually just want the cut and paste lessons to pass on to their members. Like they don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. And we learned that with the Body Thrive Resource Hub. And now what we've come to in Wellness Pro Academy is like, here, you can have the whole thing, right? The whole course to do with your members so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Because we've kept learning again and again that slows people down, right? And their focus should really be on enrollment and coaching. It shouldn't necessarily, unless like their gift is content creation. They really shouldn't spend very much time there, because as a leader, it doesn't really matter who's teaching the intermittent fasting lesson, as long as like everyone's running their own experiments together based on the lesson.
You know, when I had to learn that lesson a little bit the hard way, because when I came in, I had this like perfectionist mindset, overachiever, like got to do this the best and different than everyone else to make it work. And you know, it was cool. I did have to, I recorded my own video lessons, all these things, and I still enrolled people and brought them in, but it created so much stress for me. And a couple of weeks ago, I wrapped up this Journey to You group that I've been leading ever since YHC. By the end of the whole, the couple of years, it was literally like, hi, everyone, screen share, let's watch the lesson together and then talk about it for third. And that was enough. And if I could have just gone back and told myself, 3 years ago, and I was, hey, this is all you have to do. Take a huge deep breath, exhale, and then go do sales and marketing or whatever the thing is. But like, I did kind of have a lot of not enough. And it was just like this thing was being put right in my hand. And I took advantage of the resources. I made it all work. But it was even more turnkey than I realized, I think.
Great recognition. I feel the same way too, Patrick. I always had this little like, oh, I should be doing my own videos and things like that. I never really had time. So so it was just great. And I also noticed just that it was very easeful to just use what I have. And it's the other thing is that it's really important for people to hear things from different people, even though we might be saying the same thing. So they'll hear it from Cate in a different way, and they'll hear it when I reinforce it or share my own stories in a different way, or from someone who has been in the club earlier. So I think it's really important to think about not reinventing the wheel unless that's your, that's your zone of genius and you want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And some people are coming in where it is and they have so much developed content over the years, but by far the majority are coming in with just, really great skills, a good community, and they don't really know what their core competencies are. And it's so much easier for them to see like, okay, I'm just going to test this with my pilot group and see what works.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, it worked, and then there already is a momentum. And to me, it's that momentum that is absolutely crucial in the success of the business model, right? It's like the whole, and I would always say, like, you're stepping onto a moving bus, like there's going to be members that are ahead of you. And I think as a business owner, to be able to relax into that momentum and to see where it can go and to notice where it's going. And I was reminded again when you guys were speaking, just like how many times do people ask us for what they want, and then can we fulfill on that? And I believe it has been for over 15 years, people have asked me to certify them in leading detoxes. Right. And I was just like, whatever. Like in every detox, we teach yoga detox twice a year. Every season we would get some of these requests of like, will you do a whole behind the scenes training of how you lead a detox? Because we would lead them with hundreds of people. And I was like, later. And then all of a sudden when, we had this big review and aha of handing over the curriculums that we've created, that we've tested, that we've worked with for years to people in Wellness Pro Academy running clubs, it was just this like, oh my gosh, I can finally fulfill on this request, right? 15 years later.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I have a question for you, Cate, around your practices for listening, for being in that place of, let's say, transition, or like really feeling for your desires. You've just gone through so many iterations.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes a hard place to be. For me, my challenge is, I need to do something to make money. I need to, think about that. And I really can feel for the desire of my heart to just be like, I don't have a full body yes for this right now. I wonder, what's next or what wants to come through me. And sometimes I would just love to hear you speak to that around.
Yeah. It's the full body yes thing, and like intuition is such a tricky thing, right? It's like there's some really good yoga sutras on this, like that it comes from deep rhythm, like deep connection to the source of rhythm of the universe. And that's really what awakens our own intuition and how we, I would say, receive divine commandments or how we receive inspiration or desire. But if you take your same person, your same self, and you put yourself in like two really different situations, like your desire is going to be, it's like in certain situations, it's going to come through loud and clear. And in other situations, you're not going to hear it at all. So to me, it's like, how do you get in rhythm enough to be fully surrendered to desire? And I think, those of us who coach the Body Thrive habits and have been in times of our life where we're very centered and very grounded, we know that we hear that, whether it's a voice or if it's, for a lot of it's very visceral of like, this is really what I want next. The other thing is that unless you take action on it, like it's actually the action that generates the desire. So if we're just waiting to be really inspired, we've actually got the krama, we've got the sequence out of sequence, that it's in taking action that we get fired up. So even if, you're thinking about, launching your clubs again, you're like, oh, do you need to make 10 phone calls? Like get some input, ask people what they're really looking for, what they really want next, and then how much more fired up are you going to be after those 10 phone calls versus before, when you're maybe sitting on your cushion, just thinking, I'm really waiting to feel inspired by this.
Yeah.
I think for some point of time, I thought that like, okay, I just got to get over this next hurdle and then I can coast. But really, it's just kind of like almost daily hurdles. And I just got to get good at like making this my new version of walking in a way. It's not just like get to the peak and hang out and enjoy it. It's so when you're saying that, like the action, I'm really experiencing that again, like right now, as I'm going through this kind of rebrand and getting ready to launch again and putting myself out there. It's like, yeah, actually every week, every day, there's going to be a lot of action. And it's much more my relationship to like that, the taking action and the outcome of it, that much more in a sense of like, just let go, just do the action. Don't judge the action or the outcome of the action, but just do it. And it's hard. Sometimes I don't even check for that full bodied yes. I just decide, no, I don't want to do this today.
Yeah.
We've been using in Club Thrive, we've been using Ben Hardy's 10X and Dan Sullivan's 10X is easier than 2X, which is a very edgy book. I mean, it's very in alignment with what we do in Club Thrive with strategic life design. And there's really the sense of looking back to go forward, looking back to go forward, looking forward to become present. And then if we tie that into the yoga, just yoga philosophy or yoga sutras, or really I find it in every indigenous philosophy where it's like orient towards purpose and meaning, like orient towards, another way they say it in yoga is like selfless service. Like you are here for a reason that's way bigger than your own happiness or your own wealth. And so if you're oriented entirely from your own happiness and wealth, it's going to be really hard to have a strong inner yes, to do the things that are the most rewarding. I think, Romy, when you were talking before about, all of your past members getting together, there was a real sense of like, I did something that was worthy. And they were appreciative of that you put yourself out there, that you did all the marketing, all the sales, and then all the coaching so that they could then go through a process together and then return from that process later and be able to connect and reflect right on that. And then for you to be able to see like, oh, that was worthy and that worked. That part of going back to then orient forward is very juicing to the Shakti, right? It's very much like, oh, that's how I'm able to distill what's actually worthy of my time, energy, and attention. And then what I find is, we're such in this place where people are like very much, I feel like in the new age culture, like after their own high, right? Like after their own, whatever it is, their own Shakti filled experience. And it's missing the forest for the trees entirely. It's like the deepest fulfillment comes from the deepest service. Like you can find that in any tradition over time. So then to me, the orienting question is like, how can I be of the most service in the future? Knowing that will actually juice my engine the most, that will give me the most fulfillment, that will cause the most growth in my capacity and my capability. It will actually put me in the most uncomfortable situations where I'll be challenged to grow, which means it'll naturally be less comfortable, right? Than just being on my own, make myself happy high, right? But like, wow, if that's the way that we know the nature of nature works, then how do I just line up and say like, and ask, like really at the doorstep of the divine, just like ask of like, I want to be juiced about like, what is my next purpose? Like, what is the biggest impact I can make? Like, what am I really here to do? And I just want to point to like, when I see who is truly leading right now, like to me, like the most influential person on the planet right now is Elon Musk. And he keeps trying to, in a way, wake up people to there's so much we can actually do. I mean, he can start 5 companies and then take over Twitter in order to have a public square again, where we can have discourse. Like, it wasn't because he didn't have other things to do. It wasn't because he was chasing his own high. It's because he realized that humanity was being pushed by legacy media to a place where we were actually losing our First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, for the wellness pros out there, like, get over it. Like, that's my core message. Like, get over yourself. It's not about you. And for you to be the most deeply fulfilled, you have to do the most amount of service that you are capable of, and then go beyond that. Because then it's the beyond that, that's your growth.
It's like, what sparks urgency in a person to start taking those actions? Because I was listening to Elon Musk the other day, and he said somebody asked him about, entrepreneurship, and if he could say something that would be encouraging to young entrepreneurs. And his response was like, if young entrepreneurs need encouragement, they probably shouldn't be entrepreneurs. They should probably just go a different direction, because if you need encouragement, you're never going to do it, because there's very rarely people there by your side giving you that encouragement. So there's this other, inner drive that actually has to propel you forward. And so I hear you, Cate, when you're saying that, like actually carving out the time to ask the questions, like whether that's in your prayers, in your journaling, in your friendships, whatever it is, like at least start there. And then the other thing that I really liked was like, yeah, what makes me want to get up and just like rant? What really bothers me out there in the world right now? And it does require you to like actually have an opinion.
That I'm willing to take action on is the second part. And I really got that from Peter Block in Community. It's like, what am I willing to give a shit about enough to take action?
Yeah. And you learn both ways with that, because it's like, oh, okay, this is what I'm willing to take action over. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because that really differentiates between the two. Like for me with freedom of speech, like not like to some degree, yes. Like to some degree, yes. And I'll be releasing podcasts on Twitter that, would just be banned on YouTube, right? But like not to devote my whole career to freedom of speech, right? Like to me, it's like clearly tied up, looking back to go forward. It's like detoxes work, intermittent fasting works, circadian rhythm habits or body thrive habits work, primal habits work. Like primal habits work faster, right? So when it's like, and for everyone to do that, to like go back, I think Patrick, you mentioned it earlier, it's like really treasure your own story, treasure your own past, like go back to look forward and realize. And I think to what both of you said is like, you realize that you are the messenger. Like you are the one directing and pointing the conversation with your friends, with your family, in your marketing, with your email list, with your social following, right? And then it is a two-way conversation because we're humble enough to be like, hey, like, what do you guys actually, like, where are you stuck? Like, let me listen. Like, what are you already talking about? Let me listen. Let me listen to that. So like in Club Thrive right now, I've just kind of made a stand of, who's just not on the sugar train right now, right? Like who's just like not opting into that, because that's normal around here. It's normal to not be on the sugar train through the holiday season. Or who's craving more solitude and more inner peace and reflection and lighting the candle at dawn alone and not just into this like what's going on out there. Or who's actually not really spending money this holiday season, and like what, just being the one to ask the questions, to point the attention, to let people know that if they've been maybe kind of feeling that way, that, hey, I see you, I honor that.
Okay. For me, it would be like, who's not complaining right now? Who's not criticizing? Who's not blaming? Because that's just like, that becomes the lowest common denominator in so many. I'm working with more actors now and performers. And it's like that victim mindset just cuts through so much. It's like, oh, the accompanist messed up my song, or they didn't even look at me behind. It's like, okay, zoom out. And I think it's like, yeah, that did require me to feel a little more, I don't know what it is, confident or just like embodied, to actually start to call that stuff out. Because before, maybe it was like people pleasing nature. I don't know. But it was like, I would either just like play along or not say anything. But there's something so empowering about flipping that narrative again. I love, Cate, too, how like in Club, it's you guide us to our beliefs, our convictions, and like the vibe of what the club is. And that's evolutionary. So it ebbs and it flows. But like once those things actually get written down and languaged and somewhat codified, it really provides a strong like foundation for so much of this other stuff that we're talking about to just like springboard off of.
Yeah.
A while ago, I think it was one of those lessons or one years ago on some call, you talked about being the analogy of the grandfather clock, and how all the other clocks attune to that. And I think, being in our club, we get to sort of attune ourselves to that, those values and virtues. And then we're out there on our own. And, we get to be like, to work on keeping that going. Like so many times I'll be in the supermarket and I'll meet someone I haven't seen in a while, and they're literally diving to cover their cart.
Yeah. Shame.
And I go, I am not the food police. But it's just so interesting because then there is this image that we embody, which comes from our values and our habits and the way that we model who we want to be or we're trying to be in the world. And it's just really beautiful. Today I don't know if you know, I just did a bodybuilding contest.
Oh, Romy.
Yeah, I competed in a show on November 18th, and it took me 6 months of preparation to do it. And I've wanted to do that since I was 17 years old.
Oh
And
my
there was
gosh.
something about it that I just kept coming back, and I wanted to do it in my 60th year. So this past November 27th, I turned 61. So I wanted to make sure I did it before I turned 60. And I didn't tell anyone until about the last month or two that I was doing it. But it's just so interesting, it's the
Yeah.
whole other culture eating differently than Ayurveda and all that. And I try to
Mm.
bring a lot more of what I do in there, but it was just really different. It was a whole other culture, but it really opened my eyes to culture and what it's like and the ethic and how, we can get on into any sort of group like that.
Yeah.
And how do we remain centered and what do we bring with us that we really hold dear? Um, it was really powerful experience for me. And one of the reasons I didn't tell people is because I didn't really think I could do it. I don't think I could stay that
Mm.
disciplined for that long, especially while leading retreats all over the world, traveling and serving my family and trying to make time to work out and do all of that. It was super, super challenging. But it reminded me of this resolve that we get from really building our habits that we believe in. And it makes us so resilient. I just felt incredibly powerful,
Mm.
incredibly resilient. And I so appreciated the experience of taking something to a next level that I really didn't think I could. So I think that really came from just my habits, my ability to take small steps, tiny steps, and
Yeah.
grow from there.
Yeah. I mean, two things in what you mentioned. It's like when we go back now as we're building these certifications out, and it's like so much, it's like, yeah, the habits are like what to do, right? And yet so much more of what we're finding is what really works is like all the habit evolution videos, like all the things like you mentioned with like the small incremental steps, or for me, a lot of it, architecting the environment or keystone
Mm.
habit or yes, or measuring from the gain, not the gat. Again, where I work from Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, or if we upper limit, like from Dan Sullivan, like these things that we use in the how to coach. Because what we're finding is that so many wellness pros do not have baseline coaching skills that are so super effective in getting people to do the habits that are part of their club.
Mm.
So I'm glad that you brought some of that in Romy, because it's just to me another confirmation of like, for me, the reflection and the transition that I'm in right now is like really looking back on 20 years of body of work. It just creates so insanely prolific in body of work, and being able to like just distill out and hand over to the people in the certification program of just like, hey, these are the things that we know get people to the results way, way, way faster.
Mhm.
The other thing that I'm hearing in what you shared with your group is like what really sticks for life.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, and that it does take time for you to get to that space where
Yeah.
you don't really go back. um it takes
Yeah.
that's why
It's
we
a
do it for
process.
6 months. That's what we do it for a year. And the longer you
Yeah.
do it, the more permanent it becomes. It does
Yeah.
take time, and it also doesn't take much time for you to just stay on track and to revert back to that space of feeling energized and
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah, I know it's true. I mean, in our clubs right now have an over 50% resubscribe rate, right? To me, and that really speaks to like what it's like to be part of a community where you belong and you're becoming like, and there is the next evolution, that it's easier to stay in a way from that community belonging and coming than to be like, okay, I'm gonna now go off on my own. Because then when I go off my own, I realize like, oh my gosh, I'm now back in somewhat of disorganized culture.
Mm.
Where it's either like the random, everyone's on a health kick, but everyone's doing something different, or it's like least common denominator and everyone's just kind of like swimming in the habits of modern culture, of chronic inflammation.
Mhm.
Any closing thoughts, you guys? This was really, I really enjoy hanging out with you. It's super fun to catch up.
I feel the same way. I have like little chills. Body sensation is chills, feeling grounded, comforted, inspired. My thought is it's just really lovely I always get something out of, conversation with you and to be in this community, and especially you too, Patrick. I'm realizing that's one of the things I'm missing is that high level of connectedness with like people like you. That just really helps us to sort of get back on track and stay inspired. And we can always go below the line and like hover in the drama triangle. And like being together, I really feels like calls us out to being open to, just to imagination and curiosity as to, how do we show up next?
Yeah, I hear you. And I find that with myself, it's like I always need to be in a growing community, because if I'm not, actually, it's like, oh wait, the pull of culture is too chaotic right now.
Mm. For me, it's just gratitude for both of you. Romy actually came and did a guest spot in my club maybe 2 years ago. And let me I wasn't there, but the call was recorded and I went back and watched it. And she was a pattern disruptor for that group because there were in the best way possible, right? Because there were certain people who they weren't trying to check right in with their body sensation or their emotions. And you just like held right to your principles and commitments of conscious leadership. And it was so powerful to watch that ripple through the group and then come back the next week and they were all like, whoa, the session we had with Romy was like so deep. It actually got so dynamic. Somebody cried. It's like a lot of that. So I'm grateful to you, Romy, for your association. And Cate, it's like, I wouldn't be standing here right now if it weren't for you. Mm. And there's some resolve that I get from that too, to like go forward in, it's like your thought leadership and your commitment to like just keeping at it has a profound effect on a lot of people, and it has on me. And I think that's like a nice reminder for me too, to like, hey, I can have a positive impact on someone's life just by like, sticking to my values and being out there. And like, it's also just, that's what yoga is. Yoga is just getting out there, established in being, perform action. And yeah, you're really an embodiment of that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's that abhyasa vairagyam, right? It's like, again, and you all are that. And I think you're right. Like if I can just stay in the same place and hold the steady, like hopefully all you can too, right? And it's that people need us out there. Oh, so good to connect. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I should just say, if anyone is interested in what's going on, and many of the people who are in yoga health coaching who are curious about the certifications, or if you're just listening in, curious at wellnesspro.academy. Just send an email and we'll fill you in on what's going on.
Are you a podcast listener ready to guide your wellness business to more profit? We have an exclusive offer just for you, introducing our Unique Abilities Profit Consultation. Sign up today at wellnesspro.academy/unique. Don't miss this opportunity to unlock your profit potential. During this personalized consultation, your expert coach will guide you to discover just how much money you're leaving on the table from an outdated business model. Say goodbye to trial and error and hello to tailored guidance that leverages your unique abilities. Your success coach will work closely with you to create a winning strategy that aligns with your strengths and vision. Don't let the challenges of running a wellness business hold you back from more profit any longer. Up-level your leadership with our actionable strategies. Overcome hurdles. Receive innovative solutions. Take that crucial step towards building the profitable wellness business you deserve. Schedule your free Unique Abilities Profit Consultation today. But hurry, this exclusive offer is only free for our valued podcast listeners. Don't wait. Unleash your unique abilities and unlock your true profit potential. It's time to make your mark in the world of wellness. Sign up today at wellnesspro.academy/unique. Namaste and have a great day.